One, here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ghosts of Hawaii. Thank you all for being here tonight. Tonight, I have a very special guest. And like I told you on previous programs that I've done, that I've always wanted to visit Japan. Well, tonight I have the next best thing, at least for now, and that is my guest this evening. She is going to be talking about experiences in haunted Japan, specifically Okinawa. Now, from what I understand about Okinawa, it has a lot of haunted military bases. Hello, Faye. Good to see you this evening. And my guest tonight is her husband is in the military too. So we're going to see how that all plays out with haunted Japan and specifically Okinawa. I am excited, everyone. Hawaiian Hauntings, hello as well. By the way, before we begin, a special shout out to our guest, our quiet but very significant guest, Godzilla from Japan. We have we have him watching tonight. So, without further ado, what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce you all to our guests. And just like all of you, I'm going to play tourist. And she's going to illustrate and paint a picture of the spooky side of Japan. And yes, his nemesis is Mothra, Hawaiian Hauntings. We just don't have Mothra on tonight, unfortunately, but that's okay. We got a really good show lined up, and I can't wait to begin. So we're going to cross the ocean again, like always. And here we go, folks. We are getting ourselves established with our connection to our guests. And though she is in Hawaii, she will let us know what it's like to live in haunted Japan. My guest tonight is I know your name. Can you say your whole name? I always get a hard time. Or is it Rhiannon?
Rhiannon.
Rhiannon. Okay, so see, there you go. Uh, Ree, welcome to the show. Uh, one moment. I don't know if they can hear my fan, so um, I might have to turn it off and suffer this sweltering summer heat. One moment, folks. I forgot to do that. Okay, we're good. All right, so Ree, my friend, and also she is a friend of mine. We've talked for several years about ghosts and everything. And if you like, you can also share with everybody your background in the paranormal because I like to hear about that as well. So we'll start anywhere you want. But Ree, welcome to Talking Ghosts. How are you doing this evening?
I am fantastic.
Awesome.
And thank you for having me on. I've been kind of wanting to share my stories with people that, will kind of appreciate some of the things that I've seen or experienced and stuff like that. So, um, background wise, I've always been into the paranormal. I have been interested in it forever. Um, my great grandma was like a psychic healer. My grandma read tarot cards. My other great grandma could see into the future. So there's lots of things in my family, gene wise, and just I've always just had an interest in it. So
Well, that's really cool. I know that you've shared your interest in some of the fields of the paranormal that you've done specifically. You can talk about that now if you like or later on, but I find it to be very intriguing, and that's why I know we got a good show lined up here tonight.
yeah. So I mean, what specifically do you want me to talk about? You want me to get just
Whatever
right
you
into
feel,
the paranormal?
whatever you feel like
Uh,
you'd like to talk about, it's all great.
okay. Um, so first, I just want to um, just talk a little, just super brief history about Okinawa in general, just so you kind of know what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, there's the famous Battle of Okinawa, which happened in 1945,
Mm-hmm.
and it lasted 82 days.
Mm-hmm.
And there was about 150,000 Okinawans that went missing or committed suicide. Before the war, the population of Okinawa was 300,000. So that's half of the population died. Um, so, I mean, that could definitely be a reason why it's haunted. It saw a lot of blood and war and gruesomeness. Um, Okinawa is also located 350 miles south of mainland Japan. It's a little island. It's only 60 miles long and 20 miles across. So, just in a timeline, that battle happened. So in 41 was Pearl Harbor, and then in 45 was Iwo Jima, the Battle of Okinawa, and then that's when the atomic bomb was dropped. Just so you get a timeline of kind of around when this happened.
So we're more or less talking about the modernized history, well, the modern history, I should say, of Okinawa, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Mm-hmm.
um, what happened was Okinawans don't like to be called Japanese. They, because of the war, the Japanese lied to them and told them that the Americans, if they got captured, would torture them, rape them, kill them, and whatnot. So that's why a lot of them committed suicide. One of the places that I'm talking about is called the Mita Point, or it's also known as the Suicide Cliffs, and I actually went there and checked it out at night. So basically, this is the site of many suicide jumpers.
Uh-huh. Okay. Well, before going further, so let's get an understanding things with things. You lived in Okinawa for like what, several years, right?
3 years.
3 years, okay. And you're there because your husband is in the military?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay, go ahead. Take it away. I'm so interested in hearing about the suicide cliffs. Continue by all means. Sorry about that.
No, sure. So this was the site that many of the people, because of the war, they chose to, instead of get captured, jump to their deaths.
Mm-hmm.
So many of them were women and children, and so let me see. I'm trying to think here. So they jumped to their death, and even today, scuba divers actually say that they have seen ghosts underwater. And there's actually a legend that if you see an elderly man walking around a tomb by the water, that means that someone will wash up on shore dead in a few days.
Oh, that's grisly. So, I put it on pause there. Thank you for the imagery, by the way. I really appreciate that. So, if you go swimming adjacent to the cliffs below, uh, people have seen, there have been eyewitness accounts of people seeing ghosts underwater because, of course, they jumped over the cliff and went into the ocean. So, that's more or less a very interesting visual to be working with. And I tell you the truth, for me, it's the first time that I've heard about that. So, what drew you to the suicide cliffs? Was it something that was brought up in a conversation, or did you look things up on the internet when you moved to Okinawa? Anything like that at all?
So actually, I went on a haunted Okinawa tour,
Okay.
um, where they took us to all of these haunted places and told us all the stories, and it was all at night. And so I learned a lot of the history of um, that way, and saw probably the most haunted places that's on the island.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
I mean, I had heard about them before, just knowing some of the history there and hearing about it from locals and stuff. But it was interesting to go there at night. There's like a lighthouse, and it's definitely a spooky, eerie feeling for sure.
So, because you have a background in the paranormal and such, I would imagine that when you went to, like, say, let's talk about that location, the Suicide Cliffs, that you had some kind of impressions of the area. Because I mean, I know for myself and from my colleagues that are watching and other people that have experienced ghosts, that when spirits show up, there's just something that changes within the atmosphere itself, and you can feel their presence. So in Hawaii, we call it chicken skin, and the hairs raise up on your body and such. When you went to the Suicide Cliffs, did you feel anything like that, or did you experience anything that would definitely tell you that the Suicide Cliffs themselves are indeed haunted? What was your impressions when you went there?
Yeah, the air it just felt a little heavy, if that makes any sense. Um, I didn't really get chicken skin. It was eerie because, of course, like I said, it was at night and you could hear just the waves in the ocean crashing, but you couldn't see really off the cliff. And and we kind of all stood there right in the spot where people were contemplating jumping off. Um, so it was definitely heavy, and you could just feel the sadness, kind of, if that makes any sense.
Yes, it does. By all means, I believe that in places where like death occurs, really like intense forms of passing, just like here on Oahu and certain places like Old Pully and Therese Wilder and the murder case that's involved with her, you just feel this ominous, heavy feeling. So I totally understand what you're talking about. Was it just a feeling? Did you get anything in photography or anything else, or did you see any ghosts when you were at the Suicide Cliffs at all?
No, I took some pictures and stuff, but I didn't capture anything.
Okay, cool. Well, I mean, that's a great way to start, is to talk about. I guess it's one of the most known places that are haunted there, right?
Correct. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, cool. So, anything like, if you want to describe what it was like to be on their tour, that's pretty cool as well. Because for me, I've been on several ghost tours and enjoyed them all. But if you want to describe anything, give us a visual, like, okay, we went to the Suicide Cliffs or anything else, feel free to do that, or take it in whatever direction you want to go in next, Reed, because you totally have you have me intrigued. You really do.
No, it was neat because it was probably a group of like 40 people, and got on this big bus, and it just literally drove around the island for hours, just um, um, going and stopping and getting off at these sites, and then the tour guide would talk about um, what happened at that site, and what people have reported seeing or hearing there, or any hauntings. And then we were on the bus in between places. He would tell different stories or things that he's experienced or his friends have. So it was really neat to do. Um, so the next place I'm going to talk to is actually called the Kadena House 2283. That's the address. And it's the single
Oh,
most.
okay. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Yes, that place is. I saw it online. So yes, continue, please. But once you said 2283, yes. So even more so, you have me intrigued. Go right ahead with that.
Sure. So it is considered the single most haunted house in the U.S. military on any base. So it's on the Air Force Base, and the Air Force Base is called Kadena. There's actually a book called Ghosts of Okinawa, um, that I know this is mentioned in that book. Um, and you can read other stories if anyone's interested in that. But so basically, I don't even know where to start. So it started in the 70s. There was an Air Force officer that lived there, and he just started feeling paranoid and a feeling of unrest. And he reported seeing this woman washing her hair in the sink a lot, um, just out of the corner of his eye. And in Okinawa, if you see a woman washing her hair, it's a sign that death is to come. He obviously didn't know this, and he ended up almost being possessed, and he murdered his entire family and then committed suicide. The military tried to cover this up, and they moved a family in pretty quick after that. Same thing happened to this family. The father stabbed everyone in the house and ended up killing himself. This happened a few times, and they tried to demolish the house, but every time the workers would come in and attempt to tear it down, they would start having headaches, hallucinations, nosebleeds. They had a super high rate of on-site job injury. The machines, like the equipment to tear the house down, would just break down. So that's really interesting. So they didn't destroy it, they just turned it into a storage unit. So it's still there. What's crazy is there is a daycare right next door to it, and kids have been known and seen to throw toys over the fence because they say that the little kids on the other side are asking us to. There's also been reports of the faucets coming on by themselves, curtains opening, a glowing coming from inside the house, a phone ringing even though there is no phone hooked up anymore. So yeah, this is anyone that lives in the neighborhood is hopefully aware of what happened in the house.
Ah, okay, cool. You know that as you were talking about this, a few things came to mind. First and foremost, the imagery right away, of course, came up of Ju-on, which is, of course, the original story that's based on The Grudge, and the Japanese belief that when something very powerful happens and it's associated with revenge or any strong, powerful emotion involving an act, then of course the place becomes extremely haunted and terrifying. Um, Terrifying things happen after that. Like in Japan, also, some of these spirits are very, very, very angry spirits. Especially in Japan, women are like the spirits to fear, from what I read up on the subject matter. You don't want to you don't want to get a woman mad and when she dies because she will come back, and of course that's another thing too. But their spirits, nonetheless, I just want to say this real quick, are very, very powerful, but can be very powerful and aggressive. The other thing I want to touch on as well is the fact that here in Hawaii, when we go to, and it's unfortunate that it happens, but when we go to demolish a sacred site like a heiau or something like that, then the whole thing with the construction equipment, the people that are working on site, like there are terrifying things that happen. One of the things that I've heard, which was phenomenal, was an entire truck got flipped over. So that's crazy stuff. So I just wanted to kind of like bring up those points because they just seem to be very interesting and they popped up in my head, which means, again, you really have me intrigued by these locations that you're talking about. So when it comes to this place, you went there, right? You went to go visit, or you just know about it?
Oh no, I was standing right in front of the house.
Oh, you
Yep.
did? Okay, so tell me about that.
um, I don't know. It's oh, another thing that they were the tour guide was talking about is that there's like a little boy that um, likes to come on and off of the tour bus. And I think they said he wears like a red baseball cap, and some people see him and then they don't see him later on the tour. So there's like a little ghost kid that likes to go on the tour, I guess. um, But what it reminded me, you were just talking about, all over Okinawa there is a ton of abandoned construction sites, and that is because the Okinawans are so superstitious that if they start working on a site, like let's say they're building a hotel or whatever, and these similar symptoms happen, like machines breaking down, headaches, they automatically say, oh, this place is haunted, and they just abandon it. They don't keep going. They just go, nope, we can't build here. So there's abandoned hotels and all this stuff all over the place that never got finished because of that.
Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Of course, if that were to be the case, and we would look at it as being Hawaii, of course, the interesting part is they would not stop what they're doing because, based upon what I know about this, and I'm sure some of the people that are out here listening tonight, and my colleagues in the paranormal field, um, it was, yeah, I hate to say it, but it's all about it's all about the money, right? So people would
Right.
continue to do what they're doing because if not, can you imagine with what you're describing, there would be no Waikiki. There would not be as many buildings or anything else, and that's but for us, just briefly, because the show is based upon experiences in Hawaii. But this is why so many places are haunted. This is why so many stories are generated about buildings and such with spirits and stuff that happens. So again, that's fascinating. But in Okinawa, they abandon these sites. They have the fear and respect to not prod, to not provoke anything like that. So for you, Ree, have you driven around and see some of these places that are just abandoned sites? Have you seen these?
Oh, you can't miss them. They're everywhere. Just driving on the main highways and it just around town, they're just everywhere.
Wow.
So you can't miss them.
Wow. Fascinating stuff here tonight, as always. So, continue, please, by all means. Anything else that you would like to talk about? I am all ears right now.
Just one more little thing about that Kadena house is people that live in the neighborhood have seen a samurai warrior on a horse riding through the streets at night. And apparently sometimes you can hear like the gallops of the horse's trots going down the street. So that's been reported as well by that house, which is interesting.
I think there's a place in Tokyo that had a samurai. This is a modernized Tokyo that had a situation with a samurai spirit. So continue. Yeah, I think I'm just so into what you're talking about.
So a couple little other stories. They're also on Kadena. A lot happening on Kadena. That, like I said, that base is a huge haunted area. They also, in the field, almost right across from that house, during the war was like the field hospital. So the Japanese field hospital.
Mm-hmm.
So the one, it's called the Kadena Banyan Tree Golf Course. It's
Mm-hmm.
a golf course now. But if you walk up the hill a little, there's a cave. And they actually have it like a fence, like a chain link fence over it, so you can't go in it, but you can look inside of it. And this is where 17 Japanese nurses went into the cave and committed suicide. And apparently there's still screams and groans heard from inside the cave. Sometimes people that go up there can see them popping their head out, like from the rocks. That's been reported there. Also on Kadena, there is a known ghost that comes up to the gate guards. There's actually video on YouTube, I think you can, if you go on YouTube and you put like Okinawa gate guard ghost or something like that, they have it on camera, this figure, and it's a man that walks up in a World War II uniform with blood all over him, and he asks the guards for a cigarette, if you can light and get a light for the cigarette, and then he just vanishes.
Whoa, that is creepy. I'm sorry. This is the first time, ladies and gentlemen, doing this show, Talking Ghosts, where imagery has really made me want to just put on the pause button. I mean, the spirits of ghosts popping, of murder. I mean, of nurses that committed suicide. Did you say popping their head out of rocks and stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's some crazy. But then again, I mean, if you don't know much about this subject matter, because the whole month, I mean, the whole summer month, the rest that we have, we're going to be talking about ghosts in Japan. I'm going to be doing stories and having guests like Rion. But if you don't know, by all means, invest some of your time into reading up on the subject matter, because Japan has some of the most incredible, different, I mean, absolutely different. It's not just spirits. We're talking about yokai and such creatures that are in Japan. Just do yourself a favor and check that out, because what Ree just said. Okay, yeah. So let's continue. But again, it's the first time in me doing all of these shows that I had to kind of go, "Whoa! Did you just say heads popping out of rocks?" And yeah, I think the guards should have like a pack of cigarettes on standby when that happens. So continue, my friend. Absolutely continue. I just had to go, wow. The wow factor tonight, uh, on a scale from 1 to 10, is incredible. We were talking about 11 and up. So go ahead.
Um, no, is it Obon coming soon, right?
Oh no, it's
Or
canceled this year because of the pandemic
right, but I mean like the time period, right?
in Japan. Yes,
Yeah.
I think the first one may have passed. I'm not sure, but yes, it's that season. It's the season of ghosts in Japan.
So what's funny is uh, they'll say that you don't swim in the ocean during Obon. Do you know why?
No, but please
Because
tell
they
me.
say that the ancestors, right, they come back through the sea and then out also back into the sea. So if you go swimming, they will grab you and pull you in and drown you.
Interesting, because we do have the lantern ceremony as well here in Hawaii, where we put lanterns into the water, and it's used to recognize the fact that ancestral spirits and such are around. So thank you for saying that. Of course, continue. But I never heard that part. I guess it's a reference of always showing respect to these situations. But continue, please.
Yes, yes. Um, so another story that I heard was actually a personal story um, by the tour guide, and he said that he, moved out into a little home out in downtown Naha, Okinawa, and um, he's a white guy, and all of his neighbors are Okinawan, and um, he lives in this tiny little apartment, and he moves in, and all of a sudden, at night, all of his cabinets in his kitchen are closing, slamming, and he'd wake up and they'd all be open. And he said he would be sitting on his bed, and there was like one of those little, those Japanese like rice paper blind things right on the bottom of his bed. And he said this little man would like go peekaboo, like almost like pop out like behind it and then pop back in. And he was like, what is happening? And he said it freaked him out and he didn't know what to do. And he asked the neighbors, and he's like, oh yeah, guy, he used to live there, just put out some sake for him. So he was like, what? And they're like, yeah, you gotta get the good kind. So he's like, okay. So he goes and gets sake, and he would leave on the counter just a little cup of sake for this guy every day, and he stopped slamming the cabinets.
Wow. I know in Hawaii we call leaving gifts for the dead and spirits ho'okupu. So that was probably a version of that. But again, you're really good at this describing unusual things. I saw in my head this little Japanese man going peekaboo, and yeah, that would kind of like throw me for a loop, I guess, with that kind of situation. But yeah, that's cool. I guess I'm gonna go buy some sake and go visit Japan.
Yeah. So it's funny because the Okinawans don't like to talk about ghosts, though. When I lived there, I had a mama-san, and she was her name was Miyagi-san, and she had helpers, and she would come and help me clean the house and do laundry, and they would babysit. They were like your grandma, like a Japanese grandma. And she would bring me gifts all the time and stuff, and anytime we would talk about it, she would be like, no, like, and just did not want to answer any questions, or and I guess that's pretty common there. I don't know if it's like bad luck to speak of it, or they just don't like to talk about it, but so I want to talk about some of the quirky superstitions that they have, because some of them are hilarious. So when you sneeze, what do we say? We say God bless you, right? So when you sneeze in Okinawa, they say susuke, which literally means eat crap.
What?
Because
Wow.
they believe that when you sneeze, your soul will come out of your mouth, and they say that to protect it from being devoured by the devil.
So they say eat crap?
They say eat crap, susuke.
So the devil's like, nah, I don't want no part of that. No, 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 no. This is not my gig, right?
Exactly. It's just so funny. So, another funny thing is they believe that evil spirits can only run in a straight line. So, if you've ever seen those, like in an entranceway in any Asian, I don't know, maybe cemetery or restaurant or whatever, and it's almost like a oval, tall stone with about probably like 3 or 4 kanji on the front. They put those in a lot of entranceways and stuff. That's supposed to stop the evil spirit from coming in.
Oh, almost like a ward of some type to ward them off. Okay, yeah, a talisman or something.
We already talked about the not going swimming during Obon. They also believe that cats are messengers from the underworld, and so if a cat dies, you have to hang their dead body. If you don't hang their body, then the evil spirit will possess it, and it will return back to life, almost like Pet Cemetery or something.
Wow. Well, that's different.
They also, kind of like many cultures, they use salt. They usually put salt in every room, or they put it in front of their stores, their shops, to keep the evil spirits away. And so also one other thing is, if you're ever in Japan, they eat with chopsticks, right? So it is very, very bad to if you and I were eating and we both had chopsticks, for me to pass a piece of food from my chopsticks to your chopsticks. And then you never stick your chopsticks straight up. You know, if you have some rice, you never stick them in the top of the rice, sticking straight up. Because though both of those kind of remind them of cremation and death and incense and basically when somebody passes the rituals they go through.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big no-no.
Wow. Guess I won't use chopsticks when I. Well, I mean that's the whole thing about customs and beliefs. They're so ingrained into society that I mean, literally, it becomes like second nature to respond to things in the way that you're talking about. I know one of the things that I heard in Japanese culture is that you never point your finger in a cemetery. Do not extend your finger and point because the spirit will literally come and grasp onto your finger, just grasp onto it, and I guess you might have problems having the spirit release your finger, which could be some type of spirit attachment, but very interesting.
Yeah, very well could be. Um, so I did live on one Marine Corps base, and it was actually where the old jail used to be, like the World War II jail. So we would often walk over to the field where the jail was at, and it was very, very weird feeling over there. Just kind of, like I said, heavy. I just felt like being watched all the time.
Mm-hmm.
In our houses, almost every night, in my hallway, I could hear footsteps, like a soldier almost walking back and forth, like doing their rounds or keeping guard or something.
Mm-hmm.
My neighbors would hear children crying through the walls. Not only in my house, but my neighbors' houses. You would be upstairs and you could hear like the chairs, your kitchen chairs moving at night, like across the floor.
So basically,
Yeah.
where you're at, it's haunted. You were you living? I guess you were living on a military base, right?
Yes.
Okay. And is there stories about besides the encounters that you've had or others? Is there stories about it being haunted?
Oh yeah. I mean, just kind of like there's a Marine Corps Base Hawaii haunting page. There's the Hawaiian haunting pages. Your haunting pages. There was also like a Okinawan base haunting page where other people would tell their stories, or you could ask your friends, hey, does this happen to your house, or does anything weird happen in your house? And yeah, we'd all have similar stories of hearing the voices, or lights turning on by themselves, or the chairs moving, stuff like that.
I've seen videos on places that are haunted. One of the ones that I saw, not trying to get too, diverting too much away from the main topic, but there was one where they were doing stuff with the Ouija board. And you know what? I really have to do a show about Japanese rituals, and then they do have their own version of an Ouija board as well. It's different, but it's still like an Ouija board. Nonetheless, though, people would mess around with that, of course, and all kind of chaotic things would happen. I know one person, and I don't know why. Okay, I guess this is why I'm bringing it up. One person sets up this camera and leaves it on all night, and during the course of the evening, one of the things that happened is, and I've seen it in other YouTube videos. I don't know why it strikes me as being one of the most terrifying things of all, but the lights would start to flash. There'd be like heavy breathing and stuff, and the lights would flash, and I just would get totally creeped out. And one night I remember I was outside of a Japanese cemetery, speaking of which, and there was this old house across the street from the cemetery. And it, I passed by it several times, on my respectful walking through these cemeteries. And one night it just looks like it's, if there was a strong wind that would blow, that thing would fall, and
Mm.
lights were flashing in one of the windows. And I was thinking to myself, unless is somebody in there. And number one is like, why is there electricity in that thing? And the other was like, who wants to do that, turn your lights off and on, off and on? So excuse me for the interruption, but for me, one of the scariest things I would think, if you're living in a haunted house, and again, I've seen it in videos, I've seen it, is lights flashing. So
Mm.
have you encountered that at all? Have you encountered that?
Not really flashing, but
Emergency phone.
like
But he gouged his eye.
lights turning on by
Look at his
themselves,
eye.
or like we kind of lived in like a cul-de-sac, and if our neighbor was gone or out of town, we knew that there was no one in the house, and then we'd like come home from work or come home from being out at dinner, and all of a sudden, like, the lights are upstairs in the house where no one's at.
Wow.
That's weird, and then it just turned off by itself. We saw that a lot, like,
He's
all
got
over
blood
base.
on his eye. I had to clean it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there were definitely entities hanging around all the time.
That is scary. So, do you have like really like a big moment in Okinawa where something happened that you felt that stood out amongst all the other experiences that you had?
Oh, I don't know. I'd have to really think about it. I mean, it's just I don't know. It was more like just a bunch of little things over time.
Mm-hmm. Well, I do know that you also wanted to talk about something else that had to do with some of the things that you got from Japan, right? Dolls or
Yes.
something?
So briefly, first I got myself a pair of Shisa dogs, which, if you go to the Chinese have them too. Obviously, Japan. Have you seen at an entrance? There's the two half dog, half lion statues, right? One has
Yes.
its mouth open, one has its mouth closed,
Yes.
right? Have you seen those?
Yes.
Okay, so those are everywhere because they're guardians of bad spirits. So the one with the mouth open is supposed to be keeping bad spirits away.
Okay.
The one with the mouth closed is supposed to keep the good spirits in. So just to let you know, anytime you see the Shisa, they know their spirits, and they like the good ones to hang around, but they don't want the bad ones to come in. So those are supposed to be guardians that you stick at an entranceway. That's supposed to, kind of make that happen.
Okay.
So of course I had to get myself a pair while I was there. But then I kind of became obsessed with the kokeshi doll. I probably have 50 or 60 of them.
Mm-hmm.
So they date back all the way to the 17th century. They started kind of being made as toys for children or souvenirs for tourists. But also they were given to women that lost a child, and they're supposed to kind of be like a remembrance of a child that had passed away. they're also given to children to be guardians of them and be the keepers of their souls. So kokeshi, the word ko is in Japanese means child, and kesu is a race. So basically, it's saying if a child died or like doesn't exist anymore, it's almost like a replacement. So, if that's true, which I think some of my kokeshi are for sure haunted, and I will tell you why in a minute, there's definitely something happening, and it just freaked me out when I was researching and it was saying it was the keeper of children's souls. So I have, like I said, I have quite a few. I think my oldest one is 50 years old. I have one that's like 50 years old. I have a lot that were made in the 70s, 80s. It's hard to find older ones than that. They did use them in the war. They have ones that are hollowed out, and they would hide little messages in them and put them in the mail or get them delivered to family members during the war to get a message. So I started collecting all these kokeshi, and there's definitely certain ones that I think are haunted. They like to turn on their own. And lots of people say, oh, it could be like the platform you have them on, maybe just because the way the earth, moves, or it could be any shaking could kind of like make them turn or whatever. But if you see them, they have a pretty solid bottom. They're all made of wood. And it's weird because only some will turn and most of them don't. So I have probably like 6 or 7 that will really over time like turn almost completely to the side by themselves. And I'll put them back, facing forward, and then they'll slowly start turning again.
Wow, that's, for me, I know you know this. People on my group know this. People that watch my YouTube channel. Yeah, some of you, I mean, if you're not new, you've been following from the beginning, or you've watched random videos here and there, you know that I have haunted dolls as well. So when you start talking about these dolls that are like the retainer of souls, that's very interesting. It just, I just find like a correlation between the two that you're speaking about. And in the case of my dolls, I know the one that sticks out the most is Melissa. I don't know if Faye is watching right now, but she has yet to let me bring Melissa out when we go out, because she's seen the eyes moving around and stuff. So yeah, it can
I
get,
don't blame her.
yeah. Melissa is very different. She's very different. So yeah, I can understand you're talking about the objects moving and stuff, and the whole concept of dolls, and how they relate to ghosts and spirits. It's interesting if you just read about the topic on these things. It goes back for a long time. And you could even kind of maybe uh, pinpoint some of these things to other historical facts that have to do with spirituality. And I've had my own theories. But yeah, thank you for sharing that. So, is that the only thing that's happened, or did you actually feel something around the dolls or anything at all?
I've never really felt anything around the dolls. It's really hard. It's very strange. And for a while there, I was asking my husband, I'm like, are you messing with me? He's like, no, I swear I am not. It's like, are you turning these? Because this is just weird.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, it's only like certain ones. I have a whole bunch on the same, platform or in the cabinet in areas, and only some will turn sideways, and the other ones will just stay straight. It's very strange.
So, in a way, this is like a reminder of some type that you were in a place that is extremely, extremely old in its history and its beliefs in ghosts, and you brought part of that home with you. Does it ever, do these dolls ever um, uh, make you reflect upon your time spent in Japan? And here's another question too. So I'm going to ask you that first. So have you ever felt that way?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you ever come to my house, it looks like Japan threw up in my house.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, I
That's a
have
visual. Yeah.
I have Japanese just furniture and paintings, and then, like I said, I have at least like 60 of these dolls, so they're everywhere, and just all these, um, just it's everywhere. So you can't not think of Japan when you're in my house.
Hmm. Interesting. I know that the other question I wanted to ask you was if you had an opportunity, I think I pretty much have an idea what you're going to say. If you had an opportunity to go back and do it again or visit these places, would you, or were some of them just too disturbing for you to even consider that?
Oh, I would do it in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
I, I mean, I only went on like a tour where the guy talked. I'd love to get some kind of equipment out there and do some kind of, you know, spirit box or some kind of investigation to it. It's just so interesting. I bet it'd just be lit up.
I would think so too. I mean, it's like a place that I've always thought about. If I really wanted to go somewhere to be scared, which is crazy, but I do. I'm saying that if I really wanted to be
Yep.
scared and I wanted to have a unique experience, it would have to be Japan. And I know that a lot of people here in Hawaii have a strong connection with Japan as well. Like I said, when the first show I did about ghost stories of Japan, and matter of fact, I was looking up stuff about the Mujina again today, the faceless spirit of that is known in Japan, and now according to some of the research I did in several different locations in Hawaii. So those of you that are listening, while I drive in, that particular Japanese ghost, of course, she has moved on to other locations, not just the ones that we really know about. And I've heard some unusual stuff about the Mujina. So maybe one day, some of my guests that are listening, that have been guests, like Joe Puno, if you want to do a show on the Mujina, let's rock and roll with that as well. Reed, thank you so much. Great, great things that you shared here tonight. Like I said, there's several times I just had to put on the brake and say, "What was that you just said?" So, from now on, when I sneeze, I'm gonna always think about eat crap or whatever you said. That'll never ever leave me. Besides everything else that you described. So, thank you for that as well. And you've done other things in the paranormal, and I know that you visited other locations as well in your travels and such. So if you want to come back, the invitation is there for you, my friend. And then we're going to open up questions from the audience to see if anyone wants to ask anything. Sometimes during the show, people are chattering back and forth, and they're answering each other's questions. But if not, the invitation is there. If you want to come back and you want to do another show about your other experiences, I'd be more than happy to have you back on. So, what do you think?
Oh yeah. Some other very significant. Um, when I was in Tombstone,
Mm-hmm.
spent the night in a haunted old brothel.
Interesting.
And did a actual ghost investigation in the morgue, and it was powerful. It was definitely a very haunted place.
Did you hear about when you were visiting? Did you hear about places there that were haunted too? Other places besides where you investigated?
In Tombstone?
Yeah.
The whole place is like that. Everywhere you go in that place, there's some story.
That's another thing that am drawn to is like these ghost towns, these old Western ghost towns. I don't know if that's like the one you're talking about, but definitely
Yep.
I have an affinity or wanting to go and visit these. I got a lot of things, folks, that I want to go and see and do when it comes
Well,
to
that's definitely
ghosts.
one of them.
Oh, there you go. If you like, I would love to have you to come on the show again. And Roman, thank you for saying. I used to live in Tombstone, Arizona. How about that? Talk about synchronicity here, folks. But with that said, I would like to open up to the audience. Any comments that you would like to say right now, or any questions that you might want to ask our guests, or anything you want to share about Japan and ghosts, feel free to do so. I'll give you folks about a minute because I know you got to type. So, I can't just say, oh, nobody's answering, asking questions. So we'll give you about a minute or so to see if anyone wants to ask questions or say anything about the topic that we're talking about tonight. Again, ghosts in Japan, haunted places. There are a lot of people that were
Um,
chattering and stuff. Go ahead, Ree.
oh, Baki, so I didn't end up doing the live on Facebook, but I'm thinking about after you and I are done here, if you'll approve it, I'll go live there just to show, if someone wants to go on there, just to show the dolls,
Of course.
if they want to see them.
Hold on,
I think
I got
it'll be
someone
good
saying
to
something here.
see
It's
what you
probably
want.
a cultural thing. Hold on, Ree. It's probably a cultural thing, but I'm curious why they just abandon structures with activity versus blessing it and continuing to build. You know what? That's an excellent question. Did you hear anything about that at all?
Um, they don't, they don't really do blessings. um, they just want to ignore it at all costs.
Mm,
Um, yeah, you know, the closest thing they really have is a yucca, which is like a female medicine man, but that they only use those like, if you're sick or something.
mm-hmm.
They're supposed to kind of be in tune with the spiritual realm. Um, but anything to do with evil spirits, they don't mess with it. They're just like, nope. Um, they feel like they're going to be possessed or take it home with them if they continue um, working in that area. And basically, they're taking, all those symptoms, the headaches and the nosebleeds and the injuries as a sign of get out of here. We don't want any part of you. So they just go, okay, and bye. you know.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. Again, I think it all kind of like resonates with the the way spirits are perceived in Japan, and again, a lot of that stuff that happens there is just really terrifying. Easily, if you want to get insomnia, which I don't recommend, but say if you're bored and you want to try something new as a hobby, if you wanted to just say I want to stay up all night, go read some stuff about Japanese spirits. Let's see here. So Ed Bradley says, "Ghosts that follow you, how to keep them from following you." Now that's an entire Ed. That's an entire show in and of itself. As far as these type of spirits and their persistence in following you, there's definitely a whole point of spirit attachment that is about that. Okay, George Ishikawa says, taxi cab drivers in the Uruma, excuse me if I said that wrong, know about the female passenger requesting to pick up and disappears in the car. You know something? That is very interesting, my friend, because the phantom passenger is a global phenomenon when it comes to ghosts. I mean, my goodness gracious, short of picking up Madame Pele, from what I understand, if I saw someone in the back seat of my car or whatever, or if I don't know, I would be like, oh, number one, how'd you get in the car? And that would just freak me out in and of itself. And like I said, this is something that goes on all over the place, and I believe it would very much so be a part of Japan as well, if that's what you're referencing, my friend. Um, that I would not pick up unless in Hawaii, if you see an old woman on the side of the road, pick her up because that could be Pele, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that could happen if you don't. 13 Souls, thank you so much for saying that. I really appreciate it. I agree with you. This has been a great show with a great guest. And again, also, excuse me, but just to let everyone know, I was on social media a few nights ago, and a friend of mine popped up, and she's another person that's the wife of a military personnel, and she was starting to talk about some really scary stuff. I mean, I was like, oh my! Finally, I got to the point where it's like, can you? Do you mind coming on and doing a show? So um, I'll probably have her on. I'm gonna talk with her for August to launch August, the month of August. But Ree has been phenomenal to launch the month of July again with the whole Japanese perspective on spirits and demons and monsters and a whole bunch of stuff. And like I said, you could go on forever and ever talking about Japanese ghosts. And I don't know if Mr. Punohu is still listening, but I think it would be great if we did a show on the Mujina and how it has affected people here in Hawaii. We can do something like that as well, or somebody else. And by the way, if you want to be a guest on this show, please drop me a line in the comments. If you want to get a hold of me by email, my email, all lowercase, is obakihunter51 at gmail.com. Obaki is OBAKE, obakihunter51 at gmail.com. I get caught up in doing shows and other things as well. So if I don't answer you right away, don't mind. I will get right back to you. Or you can also drop a line in the comment section as well and do it that way. And all you need is Skype. Easy to get Skype. People go, whoa, what about Skype? It's crazy. Why? Skype is an app now. It's so easy to get. So just get the app, make yourself make yourself an account, which is super easy, and then we can do a show. Anything that you would like to share yourself. This is a platform where we talk about ghosts here in Hawaii and also fascinating parts of the world like Japan also. So if you want to be a guest or if you want me to read a story that you have, again, contact me and I'd be more than happy to do that as well. This place is your place, folks. It's me, you, and the Lonely Lantern and all the things that happen, like in the old days when we used to get together, talk story about spirits and such. So keep that in mind. Thank you, Roman. I appreciate that very much. I'm glad you like the show. I've always wanted to do one. I used to do another show before, and I was the host of that as well. It was really great, and I just wanted to kind of like go back to that and have guests. And again, Ree, if anything, I'm sorry about that, Ree, but if there's anything else you'd like to say, please feel free to do that. And I just want to again say thank you so much because that is going to be in my head. I know this week I got to go out into the field with my full spectrum camera. I might be doing a live feed, and I'm going to be looking for faces popping out of rocks because of this. So thank you for freaking me out with that. But again, that's impressive to freak me out with that kind of stuff. But anything else you'd like to add before we sign off? And again, the invitation is yours as a future guest. You can go through encounters one at a time. I would like to do a show, whether it's long or short, about that experience that you just mentioned. But again, you have the invitation, my friend.
Yeah, I would love to come back, and thank you for having me. I'm gonna try to find that video that I was talking about the gate guard ghost, because I know it's online somewhere. I'll try to find that and post it, and then also on your Ghost of Hawaii page on Facebook, I'm gonna do a little video of if you want to go over there and see the Shisa dolls, and then I'm gonna show some of my haunted kokeshi real quick. So if you would just want to see what they look like, you can go over there and check it out.
Awesome. So again, folks, two things. Number one, we have Joe with us tonight. Go check out Hawaiian Hauntings. Great group. They do many things. It's a really interesting think tank. Think tank is the word for it. People come together, they share a topic, and they dig in as deep as possible. With my group, it's more it's different, but I guess we kind of complement each other in a way. I do more spiritual stuff as well. But check it out, folks. Check them out. And yes, Lewis, that is Godzilla. He is our mascot for tonight, and we'll be back for other shows as well. Godzilla is my official um, kaiju mascot for all things about Japan and such, because I love Godzilla. Jamie, thank you so much. You know what? I'm going to have to get a Mothra because of that, Joe. I really do. And Joe, consider that doing a show on Mujina if you like, during the summer months. Let's get you back on for that as well, and we'll discuss that. Because I know for you and I, it's probably the faceless woman in Hawaii is like a big deal. She is one of the most well-known spirits here. People love to talk about the Mujina. So we will. I think otherwise known as the Nopero Bull is the other name for it in Japan. Don't quote me on that, but I think I'm pretty close in the ballpark with it. So thank you so much for listening. Jamie, thank you for the comment as well. Jamie, we're having you back for Halloween. And the last thing I want to say is during the month of Halloween, I'm going to be doing a subject called Of Ghosts. And we're going to just talk about the entire month, everything that we possibly could about ghosts. And I want Joe and Jamie and whoever else wants to be back. I'll probably be doing more shows than I usually do, especially with the pandemic. So we're going to do that and probably some other things as well. So get ready for Halloween because that's not too far away. We're into July. It's going to go fast, lickety split. And we'll be doing an entire month about ghosts in Hawaii and everywhere else. And something like that as well, Roman. I don't know if I can do every day, but I would love to just dig in deep as well in regards to this. And I'm going to be doing a show about the anatomy of a ghost. I'm also going to do one, the anatomy of a haunting, where we try to break things down and give our perspective on the other side, what exactly are ghosts and everything else. We're just going to go into that whole field and talk about that as well. So look forward to that. Also coming up on the show, I'm going to be doing Ghost Stories of Japan Part 2. Part 2. So look forward to that. Ghost Stories of Japan Part 2. It might be even a Part 3 and a Part 4 and so on. I love the subject matter, so we're going to go into that as well. And tune in, because I love sharing that. I'm still practicing. I'm still practicing how to tell stories. I'm not really good at telling stories, I think. So I'm not fishing for compliments. I just have an insecure side of me. But that's okay. Never mind with that. There's sake. I can deal with it that way. So I will talk to you folks all again. Thank you so much for tuning in. Reed, thank you so much as well. If you like, go to Facebook. Check out Ghosts of Hawaii. Just the name of my YouTube channel. Type in Ghosts of Hawaii in Facebook. You have to answer 3 questions to become part of the group. You want to do that right now? Go ahead. I'm going to go over. Ree's going to do a Facebook Live, and she's going to show the dolls that she's talking about. And also, I think that's an interesting thing because I've seen these dolls. I've seen her dolls. So go ahead and check that out, folks. Thank you so much for being here as always. Rotman, thank you for being here. Everybody that tuned in tonight, you're fantastic. You help make this show what it is. And I look forward to doing another one as well. Have a good evening. Everyone out there, Ghosts of Hawaii, your dose for ghosts. And also, in this case, dolls and other creepy things from Okinawa. I will talk to you all again soon, folks. Very soon. Take care. Aloha.